Okay.
Roll call. We have Mario, Terrace, Sandy Kirk, David Gray. Approved agenda, do you hear a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Terrace, second by Kirk. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Comments from the public. Members of the public may address the board on any item within the jurisdiction of the board by submitting presentation requests to the secretary. Members of the public are strongly urged not to mention personnel by name and are reminded that they do not have immunity from legal action if personnel are named. The board may limit each speaker to 3 minutes with a total of 20 minutes per topic. People wishing to speak on an item that are on the board agenda will be called upon when that item is considered. People wishing to speak on items that are not on the board agenda will be called upon at this time. Since the board generally cannot take action on items not on the agenda, such items will be referred to the superintendent for handling. So the first one I have here is Jeff Schenk.
He's about 10 minutes behind from
Pardon?
Jeff's about 10 minutes behind.
Oh, is Jeff
Okay.
not here?
Jeff's our head football coach. He wanted to come and invite, so if I was going to do that, talk a little bit about the football team.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I had put his name in because he was going to try to leave practice a little early. So I'm Ryan Riley, I'm assistant principal at Rosamond High School and current athletic director. So we wanted to let you know that our football season is starting. The team is practicing hard. Our first home game is August 17th against Little Rock. And just wanted to let you know, invite you to our games, come on and cheer us on. So like I said, Coach Schenk had wanted to be here to do that. So, but like I said, he is in the middle of practice or wanted to try to leave practice a little early to do so. So.
What time is it?
JV is at 4 o'clock, varsity is at 7. And like I said, August 17th is our first home game. We do have a scrimmage next Friday, the 10th. That's at 4 on. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ryder.
Is there some extra chairs over there?
That's cute.
I'll take this. Okay, somebody can take that one. Okay.
There's that one.
There's a couple of extra chairs over here if anybody wants them. Thank you.
Next person is Mary Kraskowski.
Hi, I'm here to speak on the resolution 18-1901. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That is what the district is doing here by yet again making budget cuts to the CSEA. We are obviously not where the money drain is coming from. If getting CSEA with cuts 3 times does not fix your problem, maybe you need to look into other areas to save money. Maybe you pass unnecessary stipends like the cell phone and gas stipend, or things like prep periods for head coaches. Last year they were getting 2 prep periods. The only thing cutting CSEA does is for the children. With less parents to help on the playground or getting the students on and off the buses, this leaves more chance for a child to get physically injured. The cuts you have already made will be felt by students who need extra time to go over the work they don't understand. As a parent, I can tell you that we connect with the students just as much, if not more, than teachers do sometimes, because we are there to give them more one-on-one attention than the teachers can. One student had an experience that she felt her teacher hated her, but it was okay because the para loved her. You want to implement the capturing kids' hearts, but cutting para hours will take away from the student-para relationship. Some on this board have overseen the cutting of CSEA workers before. Maybe it's time we get new people on the board because obviously the situation needs to change and be reevaluated for the betterment of the students. These cuts don't just affect the students at school, but my coworkers and their families also live here in the area. It will affect their home life as well, because cutting hours means more money that the parents have to pay for insurance and less for the family and less to give to the classroom. Unlike teachers, we don't get a classroom stipend, yet we also buy for the classroom with our own money for like tissues, hand sanitizers, etc., pencils, papers. On a personal note, these cuts also cause morale to go down, keeping us from giving our full and all. We feel that you as a district don't see us as an integral part of the community of the district. But we stay, even though you keep making these cuts, because we care about our community, we care about our kids. We stay for the love of our students, yet you treat us like we're replaceable just like that. You have a hard time keeping or getting parents to go to SKUSD, but we keep getting cut. Just remember, we are all here to help build the students' self-esteem for a lifetime achievement.
Our next presenter is Jamar.
We're talking about the same things.
And you are
Naomi.
okay.
Good evening. I'm Jay Vincelet. Actually was a teacher here in the district, but I'm actually representing AYSO, American Youth Soccer Organization, for the purpose of this meeting. So the background on AYSO, as a lot of people know, but just in case you don't, it's the American Youth Soccer Organization. It's a worldwide soccer league. It's based on 6 philosophical principles. It's positive coaching, good sportsmanship, balanced teams, everyone plays, open registration, and player development. So, Rosamond has had its own local division of AYSO, and it's called a region. And it's had that for about 25 years. It's 100% volunteer organization. And without it here, children in our community would forced to travel to Lancaster or farther to play soccer. So it's not possible for many of our poverty-stricken residents with transportation issues, cost availability, being huge limiting factors here. The park at United Street has been the soccer venue for Rosamond and AYSO for 15 years. And it's the backbone of the program that's provided a value of team sport, volunteer opportunities for the whole community. It has produced the majority of the players from our back-to-back CIF championship high school varsity soccer teams in the past 2 years. Along with many consecutive years of varsity soccer playoff teams as well. As we're gearing up for this coming season, which is scheduled to start this week, we learned just this past Friday that the SKUSD will not be maintaining the grass fields that we're dependent on for the kids to play their games here. And as you can imagine, this effectively will force soccer outside of Rosamond. A few points. Many people have spent hours and hours of their time to plan for the upcoming season. Like I said, we're all volunteers too. We estimate over 1,000 people each week will be affected by discontinued watering in that park. We don't have time or money to find another venue because the season is imminent. With programs such as like ACES, after-school programs being limited, not having the soccer puts even more strain on the community. And 2 new programs this year are not at risk of being canceled. Our VIP program, which is going to be serving special needs players, and then also the playground, which helps develop the preschool age players. The facility use request was also approved for this year for this, and this should be, I think, a consideration. If you want me to go there.
So just some final points. The SKUSD has provided the community of Rosamond with an invaluable commodity to the United Park. I think it's a positive place for a lot of our kids, which there isn't a lot going on in Rosamond. There's also not a lot to do for after-school activities or something positive and trying to keep these kids growing and learning and focusing on that whole child and the holistic view. I think is really, really critical. When you start taking it away, it's not just AYSO that uses that park. Many families do. Other youth sports programs also use that park because we have such limited resources here in Rosamond. I know Little League uses that park. Football uses that park. Families go out there. I mean, it's something that's valuable to the community, and to just decide and not tell anybody that we're not going to take care of it anymore. We're just gonna let it die and become another dirt field. You know, without any kind of preparation or thought of, can we implore other county programs, someone else to take that on? Once you let the grass die, it's not so easy to just start watering again. If we were to talk to our CSD or RMAC or go to the county or look at other alternatives, if we had a little more time to look at, is there fundraising, is there some way to solve this? But with this heat in a week, that grass is going to be gone, and then it's a whole other thing to try to bring it back than to have any kind of use in that park. As the higher authority for the SKUSD, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools has an obligation to the Rosamond community that includes consideration for the consequences of neglecting this park. This consideration would include providing a reasonable amount of time before killing the grass in order for citizens to work out alternative possibilities for the many uses it has provided for the past 15 years. We need our school board to protect the community and be the ones to appeal to the Kern County Superintendent. So, I mean, obviously, I get it, we get it, there are budget issues, but, you know, just giving us a little bit of time to see if there's any alternatives, or we just now lose this resource for our community that's very valuable. Thank you.
As a final note, I just want to say that we'd like to propose some watering the park throughout the rest of the soccer season. 2018. That's pretty much it. So, thank you.
Okay, do you want to let Schenk talk, or?
Mr. Coach Schenk, you want to talk? They just talk.
Oh, sure.
So I need to.
No, he just has to smooch the rep, that's all.
I just wanted to introduce myself, guys. My name is Jeff Schenk. I'm the new head football coach at Rosamond High School. And just talk about the season a little bit. We're extremely excited about the group of kids we've got this year. Now, we're a fairly young group. We graduated a lot of seniors last year, and we had a spectacular season last year, all the way to the state, the CIF championship game. Our plan is to kind of finish what we started this year with this group. What we lack in experience, I think we more than make up for in speed and athleticism. So I think we're going to have a really talented group this year. And I just want to extend an invitation to all of you. Please invite your friends, your family members, anybody that you know. Our first actual game is going to be the 17th of August against Little Rock at Greg's Field. 7 o'clock. So 4 o'clock JV, 7 o'clock varsity. I'd love to see the stands full. I think the kids deserve that. They deserve our support. So if we can get you out there, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Board communication? Mr. Gregg?
I'm happy to be back again here after a small planned vacation that was over a year ago, so I apologize for having to do that. But I'm really excited about being able to try to help this district move forward, and I think that we've made some positive steps just in the few days that I've been able to return, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I certainly hear all of the angst and worries that you're presenting to us here in the public comments section, and I think that we have the ability to address them. It's going to be difficult because we do have to all tighten the buckle a little bit, but eventually we will be able to get past it, and if we continue to work together, we'll make that happen. So thank you. I do appreciate the public coming to comment as much as possible, and to having you show up here, because I think it's certainly your job to be involved in this, and so I just continue to have you, or request that you continue to do that for each of our board meetings going forward.
Ms. Burke?
Thank you for coming. I know that the end of summer is kind of a pain in the neck. Okay, it is a pain in the neck. It's not kind. Everybody's getting ready for school, vacation's getting over, or you're getting ready to go on a short vacation before school starts. So I do appreciate you coming, and again, like Mr. Gregg said, that we do appreciate your comments and concerns. My only thing on a personal level is I wish you'd show up all the time, not just when you're not happy. Because you'll find out that we do things, that there is a positive. But it appears that, and I know this is a normal situation, so I understand. So I'm not upset. I'm just saying, if you're concerned about what's happening with the school district, with your students, community, come to our meetings. Come to the meeting twice a month. Thank you.
I hope everybody's having a good summer, and we'll all be coming back to school here real soon. There's going to be a lot of changes. I know some will be upset with some of the changes, but there's a lot of changes that have to be made. And yes, I have been on here a long time, and the changes that are made are looked at very carefully before they're made. There are certain changes that can't be made. There's legal stuff that has to be followed. But I really am happy to see people come in and give us their feedback, even if it's bad, even if it's not something that we like to hear, but we have to hear it. I can appreciate when we do something right and we hear that too, but usually it's rude. And I agree with Mr. Rensselaer about the park. I hate to see the grass die because it costs so much to bring it back. I can't say I can do anything about it, but I love grass. They wanted to put turf over at West Park and cringed and jumped up and down and threw a little tantrum. Luckily we did end up getting grass. Because turf doesn't move, I'm sorry. It's too hot out here for turf. I've been on turf. If it's 100 degrees out, it's 150 on that field. And it takes as much water to get it cooled down as grass does. So it does, there's no gap, the water's safe.
I'll say this well, but I do appreciate all of you here, and I do appreciate your, your input and your concerns. I kind of agree with you, our part too, about, being what's safe there. We're trying to maybe just water half, not the top half there, and try to do that. So we do try and work on different objects and plans on where we can cut. And I'm concerned that you guys were just, notified about it, and then you got NYSO already scheduled, and I think that didn't work out the way it should. Maybe you need to do a better job to notify them. That's what I can say. So do we have a RTA report?
Yes, we do. And I hope the board does remember, sometimes I have good things to say. Sometimes. And what we might want to do with Mr. Argus being more active for CSEA with CSEA reports, we may want to flip-flop RTA and CSEA every meeting, just so I'm not always going first. Just came to mind. I'll let him be the bearer of bad news, and then I'll pick it up and be nice. I have 3 items to report and request of the board tonight. First, I am scheduled to meet with Mrs. Hargis tomorrow. Some of the items on RTA's agenda are class sizes and enrollment, remaining vacancies for teaching positions, administrative changes, and needed postings for academic stipend positions such as departmental chairs and leadership, BITSA providers and mentors, and SST coordinators. The stipend positions are important because they need to start at the beginning of the year. I also hope to touch upon beneficial communication between the administration and RTA. Secondly, I requested at the last board meeting that you consider changing board policy 4112.8. RTA believes strongly that employees in the district, certificated and classified, should have the freedom of movement to any work location or department, regardless of whether an immediate family member is also on the site or at the department. The ability to move to a desired vacancy should be based solely on the guidelines of the bargaining agreements and should not require approval of the superintendent. I am asking for any response you can give me at the end of my report. Finally, I continue to ask why the tentative agreement of language changes for the RTA contract has not been agreed upon. The latest update I received was that the county rejected the section providing a reduced teaching assignment for the RTA president. RTA has withdrawn that part of the proposal and made a counteroffer to the district that was also rejected. I will expand on this in a moment. The other delay is the needing to wait for feedback from schools' legal services. I find this frustrating because the last draft I received of the contract included the agreed upon changes and it came from schools' legal services. I have sent that draft and the email in which it was attached to Mrs. Hargis and Mr. Henderson. As for the reduced teaching schedule for the RTA president, this is something I have rejected for years because I feel the person in this volunteer job should be doing it for the benefit of the teachers and the district, not for a stipend or a reduced schedule. However, the job has gotten too big and too complicated. The RTA president needs to communicate with teachers daily and meet with teachers regularly. Meetings with the superintendent should be bi-weekly and each principal once a month. And if we had those bi-weekly problems, maybe RTA would have been more aware of this situation before it came up. There needs to be ongoing communication and meetings with HR, especially at the beginning of the year and the last 3 months of the year. I pretty much use my academic prep period every day for RTA business rather than planning for my classroom. Luckily, I'm an amazing teacher that can do that in less time. Just trying to You're good. Now, I understand the county rejecting the contract language for a reduced teaching assignment as a cost item. I get it. I'm fine with that. We pulled that proposal. I do not understand the counteroffer I made being denied by the district. Here's the counter proposal I made. I suggested for this year my assignment be reduced from 5 teaching periods to 4 with a regular prep period and 1 period of teacher on special assignment for RTA business. This was already built into the master schedule at TMS as a result of the tentative agreement. Class size enrollment at TMS in 7th and 8th grade math is such that the reduction of 1 section is easily absorbed by the other classes. Without the extra period, all that will happen is the 60 to 65 students in my 2 pre-algebra classes will be spread out amongst 3 periods. It's not going to have an effect. So this will absolutely not be a cost item for the district. If anything, it will be a cost savings. The reason for a possible cost savings is the current contract language providing release time for the RTA president, up to 5 days per year, with the cost of a substitute absorbed by the district. In the 20 years I have been RTA president, I do not recall taking an entire day out of my classroom for RTA business. I have given the district 100 days of savings in substitute cost. I do this because I do not want my students to lose a single day of instruction. Unfortunately, I have never had much luck with my classes keeping up when there's a substitute. I have often taken a single period to meet with teachers or administrators, but it is always during my academic prep, so it does not affect my classes. As I mentioned earlier, my job as RTA president has grown tenfold. I expect with the problems on the horizon this year, it will continue to increase. So again, without the extra period, I am certain without the extra period, I am certain I will need to begin using the 5 days of release time that are in the contract. It will affect student instruction and will add the cost of substitutes or period coverage to the district budget for those days. So the math is easy. The extra period will likely be a cost savings, not an expense. We can just call it easy. Here's one more reason why the district should accept RTA's counter proposal. It will not be binding in subsequent years because it is not in the contract. It could be ongoing as available and rescinded when class sizes necessitate. So, I will look forward to discussing this further in my meeting with Mrs. Hargis tomorrow and hope the district will see that the proposal is beneficial to the district, the teachers, and the students. I'm also looking forward to any response from the board on this item and the board policy on family members working at the same location or in the same department. Thanks again.
So first, I would like to say that the morale seems down within the district. My morale is down. What's happening here is nothing more than disappointing. Last time I was here, the number of classified roof effects reached a number of 30 classified employees impacted. Now that number will reach a total of 80 classified employees impacted. Multiply that number by at least 4, and that's the true number of people impacted. You now have affected the families of those 80 employees. Think about those Rosamond families struggling to pay bills. Think about a single mother of 2, a paraeducator on her way to work at SKUSD, and her car breaks down. She needs an alternator. Obviously, she can't fix it. So she has to call someone with her phone to pick her car up and get it to a shop to be worked on. Can you imagine the cost for her? One administrator makes anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000 per year without stipends. That's about 3 times as much as a paraeducator makes per year in step 1. A single mother of 2 paraeducator who makes, let's say, $30,000 per year deserves that cell phone stipend or car allowance just as much as the next person. It's the 21st century. Now think about those 80 families today watching you pass yet another classified reduction while the savings that needs to be made sits in the administration and teacher salaries, hiding in plain sight as a stipend, which is basically another way of saying a raise. This district is not in a position of giving raises, and we feel the board is not listening. So don't take me leaving tonight as a sign of disrespect. I'm leaving in disappointment. Have a good night. I hope you do the right thing.
County Superintendent Schools Fiscal Advisor, Jamie Anderson.
Good evening, members of the board and members of the audience as well. A lot of questions, a lot of concerns, tough times. I've had experience in those areas as a school district superintendent, and it has a real impact on the community. I totally get that, and I totally understand. I listen to people come up here and speak and file a public comment. We do not respond to the comments being made. I sincerely feel the angst, the concern, but at the same time, an immense amount of caring for this community and this district that serves this community. So, having said that, what has happened to a degree? The Kern County Superintendent of Schools office, as any county office, there's 58 counties in the state of California. So, what function does the county office serve to the school districts of that county? Well, we provide fiscal services, we provide legal services, curricular services, we do your payroll, variety of services. Do we govern that school district? Absolutely not. You have an elected board of trustees. That's how you're governed. What we do have to do is monitor certain things. So you have an annual budget that has to be approved every year. In addition to the budget for the upcoming year, you have to go out 2 more years of a projected budget. So what happens is, once the district has gotten that budget together, it comes to the Kern County Superintendent of Schools office where it is reviewed. You can have one of 3 types of certifications. You can have what we call a positive certification of your upcoming budget, a qualified certification of your upcoming budget, or a negative certification. Positive certification is what you always want to do. Positive certification means that you are not going to spend more money than you are receiving. that your expenditures will not exceed your revenues. That's a positive certification. Qualified means that you may be having to go into your reserves, or there may be a question in the second and third year about meeting your physical obligations. The other thing to remember is twice a year you turn in an interim of your budget, which is kind of a sketch at that point to see how things are going. That's done in December and April? March? December, yeah. So the county looks at that and gives you feedback how you're doing. So what has happened with Southern Kern Unified? Your budget for this current fiscal year that we are already into has a negative certification. There are 1,000 school districts in the state of California. Only 3 have a negative certification this year. Okay? It's not a good group to be in. Okay? That being said, the district had some choices to make. And it really came down to one of 2 choices. Do they have the state come in, which means the state basically takes over your district. They would send an administrator in that is basically calling all the shots. Okay? I've seen it happen. A gentleman that I knew that was a former superintendent was called into King City. You know where King City is, on the way up to Salinas. And he spent almost 3 years there because of the negative certification on the budget, which means the governance of the board is put on hold. So the board does not have a say in matters. Collective bargaining agreements can be put on hold. Basically, one individual is coming in and dictating what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. It's not a pleasant situation. Now, does that mean that that person coming in is not a good person, not knowledgeable? No, it doesn't mean any of that at all. But I tend to find that school districts work well as a partnership. Partnership between the board, the teachers, the classified staff, the parents, the consideration of the students. I think a team approach is much better when it comes to a school district. So what your district opted to do was contact Kern County Superintendent of Schools to invoke Ed Code Section 42127.6. Okay? What that Ed Code section says is that you are going to have to put together a basically a plan of how you're going to come out of this situation. And a plan was put forward. But it's an evolving plan. It has to be adjusted because what we see physically today may not be the same thing we see tomorrow. That's how school finance works. It's an ever-moving target and ever-changing. Things can happen. I'll give you an example. I've been in close contact with your district, with Eric. We had a situation, a maintenance situation come up. We had not planned on it. So those kinds of things can appear and happen, and they have to be dealt with. That can change the landscape. So what is my role as your fiscal advisor? Because that Ed Code section demands that you have a fiscal advisor. As the fiscal advisor, I come in and I review basically all your fiscal documents. Okay? Now I don't do this in isolation. So let me kind of walk you through a couple of things that happen. As you know, if you're going to purchase something in the school district, you have a purchase order that you're going to use. That has to be generated. So let's say I'm a teacher that is, or a classified staff, a custodian, needs some type of a supply. So a purchase order is generated. That purchase order then is going to probably go to either the certificated or the classified supervisor immediately above that individual. They're going to look it over and they're going to say, yeah, that looks like something we need, and I'm going to pass that on to the business office. What happens is then the business office looks at it, yeah, we have the money for it, they approve it, the purchase is made. Okay, we've added some extra steps with that. What happens now is those same steps will happen, but what you have is, you now have, when it gets to the business office, you're going to have Eric and you're going to have Leanne also look at that purchase order. Then, that purchase order, Talia sends that purchase order after they've seen it, so it's gone through a number of firewalls, if you will. Then it comes to the county office. I review it as your fiscal advisor, but you also have a fiscal analyst that's been assigned to you, Jeff Payne in our office, who is very much a fiscal expert. And what Jeff will do is, in fact, this morning he and I reviewed some purchase orders. And I said, looks good to me. How's it look to you, Jeff? Looks good to you. I come back, I say, Talia, it looks good. Go forward. So that's the purchase aspect. Now, an item is purchased. Now we're going to generate a batch where we have to pay the bills. Almost the same kind of a procedure. That batch is going to be generated, and it is going to, Leanne and Eric are going to see that. It's going to end up coming to me. I'm going to see it. Jeff Payne is going to see it. We're going to go through and ask a few questions. I met with Talia today. It's your second batch that you're running. And let me explain what a batch is. A batch is all these items that need to be paid. They have to come over to the county office because your money is kept in the county treasury. The county office has to approve the batch being run. They run the batch, they send you the checks so you can pay the vendors. Approve every batch. But I also have Jeff Payne as the fiscal advisor. So tomorrow when I go in, your batch number 2, which I've looked at and feel to be approved, is I send it to the lady in our office that runs all the batches for all the school districts. So I will send her an email and she will do that. So these are safeguards that we have put in place in cooperation with your district to make sure that we are accounting for every dime possible. Okay? So, the other thing that you've done in your agreement that the board has agreed to is you've opened a line of credit with Kern County Superintendent of Schools, which will allow you to borrow up to $5 million. That's a lot of money. But there's a situation called cash flow. Districts don't get all their money at the beginning of the school year. The state doesn't say, hey, here you go. Bon appetit. It does not work that way. They do cash flow. So you'll get principal apportionments over time. And so you have to make sure that your cash flow is staying up to speed. Obviously, when you have negative certification, you're going to have a cash flow issue as well. So by having the line of credit, the county office can lend that money to you so that you can meet your obligations. That includes salary and benefits as well, to meet those obligations. Question that's been asked is, so is the county office making a truckload of money, charging you a big old high interest rate on the money they're lending you? No, it does not work that way. What the county office is charging you is whatever percentage they would make if that money stayed in the county treasury, which is less than 1%. So that's far better than if you were to go out and go private and try to borrow money, because those percentages would be incredibly high. The other thing that's been set up is a time schedule to pay that money back, and if I'm not incorrect, June 30th, 2020?
Hopefully July 2019.
2019, even better. I will tell you this, in conversations with Eric, we were looking at, you did your first batch of payroll here a while back, and it came in significant less. So the district is already making some strides, taking some steps. Okay. Now, my experience, it's been 38 years in the school, well, I'm still in the school business, so that's ongoing. It's been 38 years in the school business. I retired in 2009. My last 12 years, I was superintendent of the K-8 district. The K-8 district, Rosedale, in northwest Bakersfield. When I came to that district, we had 2 schools and 900 kids. When I left that district, we had 9 schools, 5,300 students. I built a number of elementaries, middle school, bus facilities. Here's what was happening in Rosedale. Rosedale used to be all farmland when I first got there. Farmers decided you could grow crops, or this developer over here would like to buy some land for me to build houses. A lot more money in that. So what has happened is there has been a ton of growth in the Rosedale School District and other districts in the Bakersfield area. In 2006, there were 1,400 single-dwelling home permits pulled in my district. In my district alone, 1,400 building permits. That would generate me about 400 students the following year. As you know, when you grow as a district, your revenues grow because it's based upon ADA. We had always grown. In the 28 years I had been in that district, we had never not grown. 2007 hit and things crashed. We went from 1,400 building permits being pulled to 200. We stagnated in our enrollment We didn't quite decline, but we leveled off, which we had never done, and we had a very low revenue limit. They don't do revenue limits anymore. They changed it with LCFF. But we had out of 35 school districts, the 34th lowest revenue limit. So the per funding in our district versus say a per funding in the Panama Buena Vista, they got about $1,000 more per student. So times that by 5,000, you do the math, you know, that's a lot of money. So we had to be very, very good with our money. What happened is, as you've heard, your district salary and benefits accounts for about 90% of your budget. The last 10% will buy books, keep the lights on, and keep your buses running. Okay, it's not a lot to play with. Our district ran about 85%. So when we looked at what we were going to have to do, we went through layoffs. It was incredibly painful. We laid off teachers, we laid off administrators, and we laid off classified staff. I had been in the district long enough that the 300 teachers that we had in our district, I had probably hired 280 of them. And it was the worst professional day of my life to have 32 teachers sitting in a room just like that. And I personally handed each one of them their layoffs because I had hired them. I was not going to have their principal hand in that slip. I was the guy that hired them. I was the guy they were going to hear. You have to lay you off. We were very fortunate in that we were able to only have to, as we got ready to start the following school year, lay off 17. We could bring 15 back in. Okay. We laid off classified staff. We didn't have a big, giant classified staff. Our bus drivers weren't bus drivers, they were bus drivers custodians. We had some groundskeepers. We had aides. Aides were one of the first to go. When it came to administrators, I had to go to my principals and tell them you have a choice. You want to keep your counselor, you want to keep your VP. And they said, I want to keep both. And I said, I'd like to do that too. But they opted to keep the counselor. And because as a principal, they had done discipline, so they didn't need VP. It was a very painful time, very painful time. And we felt that one of the most important things we could do was keep our people informed. I will tell you this, we held a district meeting. It was a board meeting. We did it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We went to one of our multi-purpose rooms. We had all of our employees there, which was almost 500 employees. We had members of the community. We had all 3 television stations in Bakersfield and we had in Bakersfield, California. And what we did was we did a PowerPoint. We explained what has caused this situation. We showed them what happened with national trends, state trends, and how we got to where we got. It was about an hour long. We told them what the implications looked, and we looked at a couple of plans, and we invited them to provide feedback to us. Whether they emailed us, came in and saw us, pulled us off to the side, whatever. We wanted to hear from them what they thought, just as we've heard people speak tonight. That's healthy, that's good, it's good for an organization. Okay? It was probably the best thing we did. So I know that Eric and Leanne have prepared a letter. In fact, Leanne and Yolanda will co-author this letter. And there will be an FAQ with it, which will be frequently asked questions, because there's been a lot of things going out there. Okay, Jim, we met with you, and I just want to blank on the lady's name from CSEA. Cindy. That's right. And we wanted them in the loop right away because they talked to their membership, and we said we want to give you facts. We want you to work from a knowledge base. So communication is really, really important. And I can tell you, and Leanne and I have had these conversations, she invites you to contact her. These board members invite you to contact them, to share your concerns. They need to hear from you. It's important. You're all in this together. You're all in this together. And tough decisions do have to be made. And they are really, really tough decisions. One of the things the Ed Code section does, and this is where I probably get dropped off everybody's Christmas list, is I have something called stay and rescind power. What stay and rescind power means is if I see something on a board agenda that I think, Jim alluded to, I'm the culprit that took the thing off the agenda when it was on there for the contract language. But I communicated that to Jim. I said, Jim, I took it off. Here's why I took it off. But I know that Leanne has been talking with legal and they're going to work on it. I don't get involved in negotiations, but if I see something on the agenda that has a fiscal impact on the district, and I'm concerned it's an adverse fiscal impact, I'm going to remove it from the agenda. I have to. And then we look it over and work that out. So that's not, Dr. Mary Barlow is very committed, our county superintendent, to this district. She wants to see the district get turned around fiscally as soon as possible. She will use everything at her disposal to help. We were at a school's legal meeting today. She made a special point of coming over and talking to Leanne to see how things are going. Is there anything else that we can do? And I said, yeah, you need to get a new fiscal advisor. The guy they got now is not worth anything. And she said, no, you're staying there. But anyway, that is the role of the county office. We very much want to do everything in our power to help you through this and to come out on the other side and gain back that positive certification. It's kind of interesting. I have 11 school districts that I'm the management consultant to. I've been doing this for about 4 years. And a variety of districts, but it's interesting. I have a lot of the districts where it's one town, one district. I have Richland, that's Shafter. I have McFarland, which is similar to you guys. It's a K-12 district. Okay, but it's the only district in town. Those districts, I have Arvin, I have Lamont. Those districts are a big part of the community. And I have always maintained that the two most important jobs being done in this nation today, one is parenting and second is teaching. And when I say teaching, I'm not just talking about teachers. Because I used to tell the people that work in my district that everybody contributes to the education of the child. Whether you're the teacher in the classroom, the aide that comes alongside that teacher, the school bus driver that makes sure the child gets there safely day in and day out, the secretary who cleans up the bloody nose. Every person in a school district contributes to the education of that child. And so they're a very important piece of that district. So, in a community such as Rosamond, this school district is critical to the social, emotional, economic, and developmental health of this community. Because, let's face it, our children are our greatest natural resource, and we always want to do the best we can by them. And that's what I always tried to do with my 38 years in education. And believe me, I didn't come out of the business side. I came out of the curriculum side, okay? But I know the business because you have to learn it as a superintendent. But I'm going to tell you what, when I look at those dollar signs, I also look at students' faces, staff, and that there's a heartbeat behind those numbers. And we have to remember that. And yes, there's going to be some tough decisions that have to be made. You will come through on the other side. But there's a lot of work to do. Will we get there? I think we'll get there. I've been encouraged by the few things that I've seen already. And I'll tell you what, this is my 4th board meeting, and I am so impressed by the number of people who come out and the willingness to come up and share their concerns and their thoughts with this board, because it's important. It's called dialogue. So, having gone on a little too long, I'm sorry, but I will entertain any questions from the board.
We appreciate your help that you've been giving us, and helping us make some of the decisions that we have made. Like I said earlier, we don't make these decisions lightly. We look at everything and how it affects the child. That's the #1 goal. If we don't keep the lights on, we don't have students. So we got to make sure that the students are taken care of properly and safely, and teach them the best we can. And there will be some change that you alluded to. There's just, again, certain things that we can't talk about or tell you, but we are making strides towards being able to get our physical, financial state back to where it was. 2 years ago, it was great because we were growing and having all this income come in. The only problem is it runs out. And we weren't prepared for when it ran out.
Jamie, I'd like to thank you for clarifying your role with this district here. And like Mr. Gutierrez said, I appreciate you helping us in everything that you possibly can to help us get back on track. I think one thing that was missing from your overview is, when do we get to get rid of you? Not that that's a bad thing.
No, I second that. No, yeah. I'm really, now my goal is to put myself out of business. That's my goal, that you don't need me here. That is really my goal. And I think one of the conversations that Leanne and Eric and I are going to start having is, and Eric kind of has an idea of a timeline, but we want to start looking at a timeline. But when those first and second interim reports come up, you know, through the school year, those are going to be critical to see, are we on track? Because that's what discovered the issue was it second or first? It was first interim. First and second interim said, uh-oh, there's a problem. So we're hoping to see, you know, that definitely turned around.
So is it the trajectory to a positive certification, or
Yes.
the actual accomplishment of positive certification?
The financial plan is to move us to a positive certification. And I don't want to put words in Eric's mouth. Eric's been working like crazy, but Eric, we're thinking by third year for sure.
July 2020.
July 2020, positive certification. Okay, that's less than 2 years. That's pretty good. And I tell you what, the easy road for this board would have been to have state. Hey, come on in, you call all the shots, make all the decisions. But this board said, no, we're committed to this district. We'll go with the county because we don't want to relinquish our governance. We want to be involved in helping solve this problem. That's our job as elected members of the Board of Trustees. And so I really commend them for doing that. Because it would have been easy just to have state come in and make all the calls. But you don't want that. Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Mr. President, before we move on, I'd just like to make 2 comments on the public session really quick. First one is, thank you, Mr. Quellman. I'm glad to hear that you're going to try to work with Leanne. I support anything you can do to help reduce our costs. So if you think that that's a cost-saving measure, then I certainly support that. Any other ideas that you can muster through the RTA to help us achieve those cost reductions is going to be very helpful, so thank you very much. Second, the United Park water issue. Obviously, as you can see, we have an expense there that we can't afford at this point in time, so I think it should be known that it's costing the district roughly $60,000 a year to keep that thing watered. So even keeping it open half of the year would be $30,000 to the district. So if there's some sort of plan you guys can formulate and bring back to the board, we'd love to hear it. Thank you.
Consent items A through C. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to accept.
Kris, second by
Second.
Bert. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Approve revised LCAP. Ms. Marcus?
So we've got our LCAP, we talked about it in the last several meetings, probably since about June 20th. Our LCAP, and that is our plan to spend our, how we're going to move forward and improve this school year. And so our final revision has gone to the state for final approval, so we're just asking the board to approve that document.
Was there any major changes other than ones that highlighted?
The page that you have that's highlighted is the budget. The final document, there's not a lot of changes from the last time you brought it on the 17th.
Because I didn't see any of those.
Yeah.
Just wondering if there was any changes. that
Yeah,
I
just a
missed.
few minor little things here, but, just some language that, and the county again, since this was the first time that, Eric and I and, Mr. Wexler had worked on the LCAP, they came alongside us and really gave us a lot of support. And so when they read through it, they said, oh, how about you just tweak this little language here and, let's put this here. So, it was very beneficial working with them. They were working with us, with the LCAP and then also with financial situations. So, we are very thankful for the county to just.
Second by?
I'm sorry, before we move forward with the motion, I just have a few questions about this. In your budget summary, it says, I apologize for not being here when you did the first reading, budget expenditures 42 million. Total budgeted for planned action services, 11 million. Total revenue, 35 million. I don't see how that adds up. So how do we, what's?
So 42 million is our overall budget.
Mhm.
That includes all sources of revenue. 35 million is LCFF revenue. That's the local control funding formula. LCAP is how we're going to spend the supplemental concentration portion of that 35 million, which is the 11. So supplemental concentration is for spending on targeted students, free and reduced students, homeless, foster youth. The higher those percentages of students, the more supplemental funds we get. The LCAP is really geared towards how is that money going to be spent. We have to be very specific on how we spend supplemental concentration funds.
Okay, and this is based on your estimation that we had 92% ADA?
Yeah, based on the LCFF formula, we carried over the same ADA level as we have at the 1718.
Okay, so we are budgeting for what is realistic as opposed to what's hopeful.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Our historical average ADA is 95%, but last year we experienced 92%.
So we're
So
budgeting
that's
for
what
worst
we're
case scenario of the 3-year historical, 5-year historical?
Yeah, 5 years. The LCFF calculator goes back to 2013-14.
Okay.
5 years to the future, but we're assuming 92% again this year.
So any additional revenue would go towards covering any debt that.
Paying down debt and building reserves.
Okay, so the importance of having children attend and our program this next year that focuses on attendance will be instrumental in helping us recover.
Yeah, it's critical. And the more time the child loses in class, the harder it is for them to get back to class level. 92% may not be much different from 95%, but it's a significant number of days that is missed in classroom instruction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, is it as simple as saying 1% of 35 million, 3.5 million per percent?
So 3% would have been about $1.5 million for us.
Okay. So it's $500,000 per percent.
Yeah. And ADA is tied to all sources of funding. It's not just the LCFF.
Okay.
Anything outside of LCFF is a lottery or grants based on your age.
Okay. Thank you. That was my question. Appreciate it.
Motion, second by. All in favor?
Aye.
Second reading of board policies for approval.
So we have board policies that we have to adopt every so often. So this is our list of policies that are up for adoption right now. Our first reading was at the last meeting. This is our second reading. We all go through 3 readings, so the approval will be at the next meeting.
Mr. Coleman, what were the numbers again on the, what was it you were, on this, the full record? How the good was?
12.8. I gave you a copy of that at the last meeting.
I don't remember what I did with it.
Okay, I have.
Sorry.
I'll send it to you.
Our next item is on personnel. I have Mark Hardeman wanting to make a comment.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent Hargis. I want to thank you for your time. I am here on behalf of my fellow CSEA members and wish to address item 9A on tonight's agenda in relation to personnel transfers. There are multiple classified employee transfers intended. Some are voluntary, some are involuntary. We feel that these involuntary transfers violate CSEA's collective bargaining agreement with the district, specifically Article 8, Sections 6B, E, G, and H. While I feel this is an oversight,
We ask that the board table these transfers so the district may reassign classified employees in accordance with our collective bargaining agreement.
A quick question before we move. Ms. Harvey, do we have the time to review these, or do we have to have?
Well, we really need to have them so we can start school on Thursday. Otherwise, we're gonna have people without classroom paraeducators. Most of them have classroom paraeducators. But I'm sure that it was reviewed with Mrs. Taylor as well as Lisa Lopez and HR prior to any of these movements being made.
If we go ahead and vote on today, can they be reviewed and rechecked? Make sure that we're not violating any code of conduct or whatever we want to call it. Because I don't want to hold up school. Of course, yeah. Yeah, we'll take a second look at it. We need to go ahead and vote on it to get school started, get everybody in place. So I want to make a motion to accept it as written for now.
I'll second it.
With any contingencies?
Yeah.
Yes.
And by what specific date? Well, I mean, the ASCP just means could we do it
Right.
tomorrow? But can we confirm a date of compliance, assured compliance?
We were definitely at this between Thursday and Friday, and we can bring it back on the 15th.
Yeah, if there's any changes, go back. We
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Approve resolution 18-19-01, discontinue certain classified services as set forth. Mrs. Vargas?
So what this resolution is for is, Ms. Taylor and Ms. Lopez, over in HR, it was, so as we're going through and making these decisions as to, we're looking at every area to make sure that everything makes sense. Now, what most of these are is, they were hours that were just added. So some of these positions had hours where they were at school sites where there are no students. So it's just a matter of going back and cleaning up, well, you know, we don't need this amount of staff at this time. So that's what those are.
And the two clerk positions.
We had an overabundance of groups at certain sites, so we had to kind of go and remedy that situation as well. We just had an overabundance of staff. So as we're looking to, you know, cut money rather than cut the entire positions, we're looking to make sure that every position makes sense and every hour makes sense.
and like our assistant from the county said, we're at a 90% employee rate. We should be at about 85. I would like to see 82, where everybody has a real job to do instead of just somebody just sitting and getting a paycheck. And it just, to me, in a business, doesn't make sense if that person isn't productive. And they may just be producing a little bit, it's still production, but we gotta look at it at this point, and that's what got us in trouble. We allowed it to get to 90%. Actually, it was a lot more than that. So we're cleaning that stuff up. I mean, I'd like to tell you exactly how we're doing it, but I can't. We're just gonna show you the numbers of the amount each section, and every section is losing personnel and the amount. And even though it looks like SCCA is taking the biggest hit, it takes the biggest hit in bodies and not in money. So please bear with us, and will get better. It did once before. We had to do some major cuts back in, I think it was 2005 when we had a big crash, declining students. We went from 3,200 to 2,600, which was huge. We laid off over 27 teachers. So this one is just minor compared to that. So bear with us. We'll get it taken care of. It may take a little bit, but it will happen. With that said, I move that we take the resolution as it is.
Simplified. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
I make motion to adjourn.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
They did turn.